Finally, it's insulation day. January's really set in and winter's here. I'm anxious to get this room insulated. I've got myself 4 bags here. Each bag has 11 pieces and should be more than enough to do these 3 exterior walls. Insulation has an R rating. That's basically the amount of thermal resistance the insulation has against weather. You can get it in R13, R19, R21, R11. You can get it in R30. You can get it with craft face or paper faced or unfaced. I'm going with an R13 craft faced. This means it's 3.5 inches thick, which is exactly what my stud depth is. So the craft face allows me to have a paper on the inside face to staple against the stud and create somewhat of a vapor barrier. It does you no good to put too much insulation in the wall. When you compress it, it loses some of its R value. It requires that air, that puffiness of the cottony fiberglass to give it its thermal rating. So when you compress it, it really takes away a lot of that thermal barrier capability. So we're going to do R13 in the walls. I plan to do maybe some R11 unfaced in the wall between the living room and the bedroom. This is for sound. Batt insulation is a great product for sound separation. So we'll put that between those so that you don't get noise coming between the 2 rooms, especially with a living room next to a bedroom with subwoofers and TV noise. You don't want that transmitting through into the bedroom if somebody's trying to sleep. So we'll do that at a later date. Today I'm just going to do the thermal insulation to protect from the cold outside. Right now all there is some wood between us and the cold. Once I have the insulation up, I'll put a vapor barrier, a big piece of plastic, and staple that over. When dealing with insulation and vapor barriers, what that means is you don't want moisture condensating on this warm side surface. If you think of a cold glass of iced tea on a hot summer day outside, that glass starts to sweat. It's that cold against the warm air is when the moisture condensates. So you create a vapor barrier on the warm side of the wall. So as cold air works its way through the wall and eventually arrives at this back side of your drywall, which is warm, you don't want water to condensate and rot your drywall or create mold. So you put a piece of plastic between your drywall and your insulation. And so when that cold air comes in or works its way through the bad insulation and eventually arrives into the warm room, the condensation will happen on the cold side of the vapor barrier and will not touch the drywall itself. This will keep your walls from molding out, and it's just the right way to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and get started putting this insulation up. I'm going to start at the top. I'm going to run full strips from the ceiling down. This way my leftover will be down low and I won't have to work on a ladder later on. So this is a closer look at the insulation. It's a little compressed because it's been in packing, but it'll eventually expand out to its full depth. Each one of these pieces has a little paper flange, this craft face. It can fold over and then also open up, like so. This gives you a lot of paper flange to staple against the wall. I'm going to put it up in this stud cavity up here and staple it up against those studs. And then overlap these flaps as I go from stud bay to stud bay. It's best to use gloves. This stuff has fiberglass fibers in them. They're really small. They get in your skin, make you itch. It's almost like having poison ivy. So if you don't want to go to bed with the itches, it's best to wear long sleeves and gloves. We'll attach it with a staple gun. You can use a staple hammer if you like. And I'm using 5/16 inch staples, which give me plenty of grip, plenty of depth. I'll just staple it as I need to get it to hold onto the wall. So to put this up, I'm going to start at the top. Just set it up there at the top of the stud bay. Gently press it in. Open up your flaps. Get it nice and snug up against the top plate of the wall. Don't press it all the way in. Having a little airspace between the backside of the insulation and the outer wall is a good thing. Like I always say, air spaces are just as good, if not better, than the insulation itself. Tack it up at the top, a couple more to hold it. And that's that one. Now I just have to do it a whole bunch more times. Just finishing up the last piece here in the corner. It really goes up pretty quick. You don't have to cut it off or measure or anything. Getting the high stuff on, pretty easy. The next piece I need fits in this upper cavity near the corner of the window. It's only about 5.5 inches of space between the two studs. I'm going to take this full piece here and cut off a strip about 6.5 inches using a utility knife. To cut that, I basically just kind of gently mark it in a couple spots as I go, and then just slowly, carefully cut through the first bit. Here until I get down to the paper, and then go ahead and cut through the paper. They sell insulation knives if you want to go to that expense, maybe if you're doing a lot or you do it every day. But a utility knife with a sharp blade is going to be just fine. When you cut it, it'll separate. We'll just peel off and separate the craft face from the one side a little bit, and we'll use that as our stapling flange. All right, I've got my piece here. Just gonna fit it in like the other pieces. Squeeze that in. Make sure you got some separation between the insulation and the paper. Just fit that in between the studs, like so. I'm gonna open that flap up to overlap. This is the factory side. Get that into position. Staple a couple of times up the top. Both sides. And then work my way down. Just gently pressing it between the studs and securing that flap flat against the studs. Hold it, staple it off. Looks good. So here I'm at an outlet location. We pulled the wires earlier, and now I've got them inside the box. Most of these boxes have a knockout. This first wire is where the supply is coming from, which is the outlet prior, and this one will go to the next outlet. So when I put the outlet in, these two wires will connect to the outlet, power the outlet, and keep the power going on through the daisy chain. When you put this in, you want to give yourself about 8-9 inches or so. You can always cut a little extra off if you have too much. But basically I just pull it out and then I bend it back till the front touches the back, and that's about enough to deal with it. Then I just leave those tucked in for later. There's no power coming to this, so it's not a hazard right now. But this is just the way to do it. Down below we have a little slack I'd left in the line just in case in the future you need to pull the outlet out, do any maintenance on it or replace it. And then I've stapled it against the wall down below to secure it in place. So now I've got my piece pre-cut here, about 26 inches in length, and I'm going to fit it around this outlet and just place it in there, kind of mark where I need to cut it, the top and the bottom and the side, and just cut that out. I'm mostly concerned about getting the craft paper out of the way. The Batt insulation can fit around it easily by just squeezing it in. Stretch your flaps out on the sides, they overlap. And look at that, we're all set. Let's staple it off. Now I'll just keep on going around the corner.
that up. Huge difference. I was working up a sweat as I went. I mean, when I started, it was cold in here. And now, it's very comfortable. It's amazing what insulation will do. When you're doing your fixer-upper, I highly recommend you rip that old plaster down, you get all that blown-in insulation down, and you put the real stuff up. This stuff's so much more energy efficient. And to be honest, when you go to sell the home, you can claim strip to stud. It makes a huge difference in the marketability of the property. I'm going to wait yet to do this door. I thought about it, and I want to be able to take that panel off and bring material into this room. As you saw in the time lapse, when you're living in the property while you're working on it, you've got all your tools, all your material in your workspace. So you just got to move stuff around and work around it. The nature of the beast. I have yet to put my vapor barrier up. I'm gonna also wait a little bit to do that. I want to do some electrical, make sure that I've got everything ready to go. Once I do that, then it'll be ready for drywall. Can't wait. I've already got the room open to the rest of the house, letting some warm air in here. We were getting so much draft coming in from this room. Now it's perfectly comfortable. It all worked out great. Okay guys, we finished all the insulation up in the front room. Are you excited?
Wait, we put it up?
We did. It's all done. You guys were good boys. Didn't get my way. Behaved yourselves, and I got a surprise for you. All right. Close your eyes.
No.
Hold out your hands.
I can't wait. I was a small Lego.
You got your eyes closed?
Yeah.
All right, hold out your hands. Both of you. All right, you ready? Hold out them out. Okay, what do you think?
What is this? Oh my gosh!
Let's check it out.
Stop it, what is it?
Let's open it.
Open this right now. Or maybe a house.
Open it up.
Can I use the doors at the top?
Unroll it.
Oh, I see it! That's insane! Oh my gosh, it is a giant monkey! Yippee!
You guys are monkeys. Alright, now you get your cars on here. You got yourself a city.
I call both chaser. Oh, he's heading to the track. 3, 2, 1, beep! There's a giant monkey in the town!
Well, I think that was $10 well spent.